right, David. It's been said. It's been reported. Jim Harbaugh.
Are we sure, though?
Oh, we're sure.
Are we sure?
Right when Shefty.
All these rumors and
after Shefty put it
out. I don't know. Till I see him at LAX, I'm not believing it.
Really?
Yeah.
May see him at the Senior Bowl.
That is true.
Could possibly.
That is true. Yeah. No, we're just going to live in denial. There's no more football after this past championship.
Well, this is what I told you. Like after 2010, when Auburn won it, my spirit left.
Mentally, you just checked.
I'm locked in. It's like the Truman Show. Like I'm locked in. 2010. Wes Byram actually just kicked the field goal to win it. Now that I remember,
I'll live off this till I'm 85, Blaine.
Oh, I'll feed off this like an elephant. Just was laying in the backyard.
Man, good for him. I can't wait to break it down.
Yep, let's do it.
Exciting move.
Jim Harbaugh returns to the NFL after finalizing a deal with the Chargers. Sherrone Moore jumps to the top of Michigan's list to replace him. And the Dolphins are searching for a new defensive coordinator after parting ways with Vic Fangio. What a great name. I'm Jake Crane, and welcome to the thirstiest of Thursdays on Crane & Company. Now, everybody's going to be talking about what Jim Harbaugh means to the Chargers and how quick he can get it going out there in L.A., and we're going to break that down too. But I want to take a second to focus on Michigan and what happens now, because half the fan base, I'm sure, just like every other fan base out there, is panicking. The other half is just thankful for the memories and looking forward to Coach Moore most likely getting his opportunity. That seems like the guy that's going to replace him, and he should. And to be honest, Sherrone Moore is really Jim Harbaugh's Kirby Smart. But one of the most beautiful and ironic things about Jim Harbaugh being suspended for Burgergate and the Connor Stallion situation is that Sherrone Moore has the best on-the-job training you could possibly have. It wasn't like he just went out there and was the interim head coach against Western Kentucky or Southern Illinois. We saw him have to do it in big games. We saw him have to do it against Iowa. We saw him have to do it against Ohio State. So he's ready to go. But the overarching and most important thing that Sherrone Moore can bring to Michigan, and the most important word in the ever-changing landscape of college football, we see with the rules, with NIL, with the transfer portal, with conference realignment, is continuity. You're already losing a big part of your team, older guys that have stayed around in the core to finally move on and go to the NFL, Blake Corum, J.J. McCarthy, the offensive line, we can go down the list. But those young guys returning aren't going to have to accept a new type of culture being brought in. Just because the head chef leaves doesn't mean the main recipe is forgotten. It also helps protect you somewhat in the transfer portal. It's the best insurance there is to be able to keep the quality players and not have to re-recruit your own roster. That's not saying some guys won't leave Michigan, but I don't think we're going to see this crazy exodus like we've seen at other places. And when you're Michigan, and that 30-day transfer portal window opens when your head coach leaves, and you're basically the only show in the transfer portal in town, that, in my opinion, is the biggest saving grace that Sherrone Moore brings, outside of just being a damn good football coach. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback. I'm sure he's very opinionated about this. My brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane. David, you heard the news, your reaction. I know, again, it's a thanks for the memories thing. It obviously hurts a little bit. But having Coach Moore, a guy who understands it, who's been in it, not like he's been at Michigan and left and came back, but he was brought up in the waters, per se, of Jim Harbaugh and the culture that Michigan has established right now.
Yeah, and I always love hearing your thoughts, too, just from an outsider's perspective, how you think the program should go. We're going to win or we're going to die trying. That's what Jim Harbaugh said 3 years ago. and what a run it's been since then. I'm going to distill all of my thoughts into 3 different categories here. First of all, what an incredible opportunity to coach the Los Angeles Chargers. How often does an NFL job come open with such an elite roster and so much structure? I mean, you got a quarterback, a left tackle, an edge rusher, and a top 5 pick. And Jim Harbaugh, above all things else, is a quarterback developer, from Andrew Luck to Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, J.J. McCarthy. Now you're going to go work with Justin Herbert, who's under contract. And Jim Harbaugh is going to re-enter the NFL with the highest win percentage of any active coach at 695, based off what he did with the San Francisco 49ers. Higher than Matt LaFleur, higher than Bill Belichick, higher than Andy Reid. The AFC West is going to be the most fun division in football next year to watch, with Jim Harbaugh and Andy Reid. And now you got Sean Payton, Antonio Pierce, all those guys. I think he immediately makes them a Super Bowl contender. On to the second point. I agree with you. Name Sherrone Moore the head coach today. I wouldn't even conduct an outside search. Now, for Michigan fans listening, understand this. Yes, you want to go hire the best guy possible. And is Sherrone Moore the most experienced coach that you could bring in? No, but you're not going to go get another Jim Harbaugh. And this guy is 6-0 with a win over the Buckeyes already. He's already walked across the field, shaking hands with Ryan Day after beating him. Now, what's more important? To keep a couple players from not transferring the next 30 days, or setting the program up for years to come? Obviously, it's the latter. But I think Sherrone Moore is the type of guy who can do that. Not only do you keep the cohesion together that you're talking about, Jake, in a time where college football is changing in seismic shifts, basically, when we talk about tripling the playoff and new teams coming into the conference, but you'll also keep the infrastructure from the greatest 3-year run you've had, 40-3 over the past 3 seasons. If it doesn't work out with him, you evaluate that like you do with every coach, and you move on. But I would name Sherrone Moore the head coach. And then the third thing, and lastly, and most importantly, just directly to Coach Harbaugh, thank you. Not only for everything you've done for Michigan and winning a national championship, but for college football. I mean, think about what this guy's done. He returned to the place where he played quarterback for Bo Schembechler. He returned to his alma mater, and he gave it everything he had, and he won for them. He won conference titles. He had a perfect season, the greatest season in the history of Michigan football. I understand the guy was polarizing. Some people don't like he's pro-life. They don't like he's pro-player compensation. They don't like that he is a disruptor and a maverick and does things his own way. But when I look at the way this guy takes care of his players, graduates them at a higher rate than anyone in the country, the way he interacts with his coaches, his parents, his family, I see a man of integrity, a guy I'd like to play for, a guy I'd like to coach for, a guy I'd like to hire if I was the boss. That's a guy I see. We've talked ad nauseum how the NCAA, to me, is a broken system, and college football needs to make a lot of changes moving forward, or else it's going to continue to be broken. I don't know how someone can look at Jim Harbaugh and then look at the NCAA and some of the powers that be around the landscape of college athletics and think that Jim Harbaugh is the bad guy. I've said that. You guys know where I stand on that. But I will say to Michigan fans here in the coming days and in the coming weeks, don't blame the NCAA or the university or Ward Manuel for Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL. Yeah. At the end of the day, the guy wants to win a Super Bowl ring. He's made that clear with his interest in the NFL the past couple of seasons. And winning a Super Bowl ring is one thing Michigan can't fault him for, and it's one thing Michigan can't give him.
Yeah, and Blaine, I'll get to you in 1 second and the Bishop Club. But David, I want to ask you this, and something I was thinking about yesterday when the news was announced. With all the stuff that has gone on with the NCAA, I think there's 2 ways to look at it. Do you feel that it's more likely now that sanctions will come to Michigan because Sherrone Moore is the head coach? Because if you think about it on one side of the coin, well, Jim Harbaugh's gone now. So kind of the poster child, even though it was Connor Stallions was involved and this, that, and the other, the poster child of the polarization from an NCAA standpoint is now gone to the NFL. I don't know if that takes the pressure off of Michigan a little bit, because we've seen, when coaches part ways, sometimes that penalty is a little bit less. Or do they sit here and say, all right, well, now we got a new head coach. We obviously know that Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, is going to basically fall on our side, whichever side we fall on, talking about the NCAA. Basically, does it make it easier or harder now for the NCAA if they were going to put sanctions on Michigan for what took place in the past, which I don't think they should. Well, what do you think?
If there are staff members at the University of Michigan who saw a rule and broke it intentionally to gain a competitive advantage, then to me it shouldn't matter whether the head coach is there or not. Like, there should be some sort of punishment that comes with that. I'll say that regardless of what program it is. The problem I have is the selective enforcement when it comes to the NCAA. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know who broke what. They're leaking stuff to ESPN before they even tell the university about it, and then won't allow the university or the head coach to even respond publicly. It's all nonsense to me. And then Charlie Baker. No, Charlie Baker. I'm sorry. The head of the NCAA comes out after the national championship and says Michigan's national championship was legit, and us calling them out in the middle of the season and them winning down the stretch without Connor Stallions or with Jim Harbaugh's punishment proves how legit their championship is. Okay, well then wrap up the investigations. That's the part that
the minute you say the national championship's legit, I'd stop listening to you.
Yeah.
Like the minute you say Michigan's national championship's legit, okay, so if it's legit, then you're saying we're basically in the clear.
And I hate that we're even talking about it. And it reminds me a lot of Pete Carroll at Southern California. Like, I didn't see, like, I saw ESPN yesterday and some of the hosts over there like Peter Burns and a lot of people on Twitter basically saying that Jim Harbaugh's taking the easy way out, taking the coward's way out, the weak way out, leaving a sinking ship. First of all, the ship was sinking before he got there. They're the best team in college football right now. They just won the championship a matter of days ago. So don't talk to me about a sinking ship. But in terms of taking the weak way out, I mean, this guy's going to go face Patrick Mahomes twice a year in the NFL and the AFC West.
The NFL.
And everybody, if Lincoln Riley did this, right, or if Kirby Smart did this, maybe you could sell me on that point. We're talking about a guy who's had prior success in the NFL. He coached in a Super Bowl before a national championship. And I think of Pete Carroll the same way at USC. I think the timing was unfortunate, but Pete Carroll had already been in the NFL. He wanted to return to the NFL, had this awesome stint with the Trojans at USC. I'll remember those USC teams fondly. You know, I don't think about them as being cheaters or paying Reggie Bush. Like, he was the Heisman Trophy winner. They won a national championship, and I think that's how Michigan's going to be remembered as well.
Yeah, and Blaine, to kind of shift gears to the Chargers a little bit, one of the most interesting quotes I saw from Jim Harbaugh was talking about how the Chargers, who are known for not spending money, are going to go all in, basically, build the infrastructure. We'll see the numbers on the contract. Really give Harbaugh a chance to go win. But to David's point, if you're the Chargers looking at it from the best head coach out there that's available for you to get, what other guy are you going to find? It's almost like Sherrone Moore. What other guy are you going to find that already has unbelievable on-the-job experience in the NFL, went back to college, had success, obviously, joined Pete Carroll and Jimmy Johnson, if he wins a Super Bowl to win a championship in college in the NFL, and Barry Switzer. But Blaine, if you're the Chargers, this is a home run. If you're Justin Herbert, and don't forget, Jim Harbaugh played for the Chargers.
Yeah, that's right.
For 2 years. So if you're Justin Herbert, if you're Austin Eckler, if you're anybody aligned, and we're going to talk to Sean Merriman about this here in the next couple days, but you have got to be aligned with this hire. You've got to be excited. You go from Brandon Staley to Jim Harbaugh. I mean, that's gonna make the cake smell a little bit better coming out of the oven.
I mean, you got to think a lot of NFL teams have been trying to get this guy for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Whether that's the Denver Broncos, whether that's the Chicago Bears. This is a home run hire if you're the Chargers. Because look, you could say anything you want about Jim Harbaugh, but the guy's a damn winner. He wins where he goes and coaches football. And right now, there's a stigma in that Chargers locker room that it's going to fall apart sooner or later. All right, and to bring a guy like Jim Harbaugh in to Band-Aid everything up with the structure that you need, and Justin Herbert, and you're looking at, I believe, a top 10 pick, too. If you're the Chargers, a lot of people are thinking Brock Bowers, which will be a problem, right? Because you know why? Because Keenan Allen's not getting any younger. You have Palmer, you have Mike Williams, you got that kid from TCU.
They got like 3 kids.
Who didn't have a great year, but you have the weapons at receiver, Austin Eckler coming in. Hell, Jared Everett's still a great piece. But at the end of the day, at the Chargers, you have to win, and you have to win with defense. That's Bosa. That's your safety. That's your
Khalil.
good corner. So right now, if there's anybody you can go get, I couldn't find a better option to go hire if you're the Chargers than Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, he's going to face his brother John in the regular season at SoFi Stadium.
Win Thanksgiving.
I mean, look, and
win Thanksgiving, baby.
We're not even done with this season, but when you talk about Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow's going to get healthy. You know, those are just AFC quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa, what the Dolphins are doing. You know, do you think that the Chargers Chargers are a legitimate Super Bowl contender right now when Jim Harbaugh steps into the front office?
I mean, when you look at their roster and the guys they have in important positions, I think they are.
I do.
They're obviously not the favorite, and playing in that division's like getting jumped by a group of ninjas right when you walk in the dojo. But again, when you put the experience of the head coach you have now is not going to be overwhelmed. You take the momentum that they're going to have in the offseason going forward, putting the money for infrastructure, doing all the things you have to do to take that next step, and you already have the personnel, plus you're adding a top 10 pick. I mean, at the end of the day, it's setting up for the Chargers to actually turn this negative bubble that Blaine was talking about, where you're just waiting on how to lose, to flipping the script totally and having a lot of positive momentum with a guy knows how to win in Jim Harbaugh. I do think it turns him into a legitimate Super Bowl.
I think the first thing you have to look at when it comes to can a team be a Super Bowl contender is obviously the first position is quarterback.
Yeah.
Right? And what you have with Justin Herbert is a chance to win a Super Bowl. I think Justin Herbert's that good. I think he just needs to be reined in a little bit and pointed in the right direction. And I feel like the Chargers are a type of team, if they get hot and win a playoff game, they could roll, right? They really could. I mean, Derwin James is a top 5 safety in the league. You're going to have to draft a lot of defense. Look, to get you to the championship, to win the Super Bowl, defense will get you there, but your quarterback will take you home.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Chargers have that.
You talk about getting reined in. Who better to do that than Jim Harbaugh? We just talked about him being
the guy
a
who played the position
developer, right?
At that place, even though it was in San Diego.
Alex Smith was seen largely as a bust in San Francisco before he got there. And then he takes that team to 3 straight NFC championships and to a Super Bowl.
He made Colin Kaepernick.
He drafted him and developed him and got the most out of him. One more thing I want to ask you just on Sherrone Moore specifically with Michigan is, talk to me about how you feel with Michigan fans. Some people say, well, hey, don't just hire the guy who can keep the transfer portal from being a mass exodus in the next 30 days. Like, we could go get the best coach available. And you've heard Brian Kelly's name for the last few weeks and stuff like that.
No shot.
But when you talk about like giving this guy a chance just from everything that Michigan has accomplished these past 3 seasons, and with him being such an integral part, don't you see this? This is more than just, oh, you were a good staff member on a really good team with Jim Harbaugh, so we'll just give you a shot. To me, I think like Sherrone Moore can have success at Michigan.
Well, I mean, keeping guys out of the transfer portal is just one of the many things that positives for Sherrone Moore. Again, the man was the head coach against Ohio in huge games this past offseason. You cannot put that into numbers. You cannot emulate that with anybody else that was the head coach at the University of Michigan without technically being the head coach. Second thing, he's your play caller on offense. You keep the same system. You keep the same terminology, which is humongous when you're having to transition between new head coaches. So you don't have to change anything offensively. You're going to have new personnel, but you're not having to learn a new system. You're not having to change people's body types like Rich Rod tried to do when he took over at Michigan when you were there.
I remember.
And then also, the transfer portal part of it is nice, but I will go back to, if something is working, there's an old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And right now, what Michigan is doing is working.
Yeah.
But I'll use the quote I used in the open. Just because the head chef leaves doesn't mean the recipe disappears, right? So again, we hear the blueprint. We hear this talked about all the time with Nick Saban and these guys that teach, the Kirby Smarts and the Steve Sarkisian, who, by the way, is the only coach who made the playoff that's returning to college football next year. I don't think a lot of people know that now that Harbaugh's gone. Saban's gone. DeBoer's going to Alabama. I'm talking about that was at his same place. Yeah. Sark is the only one who's at his same place. So, no, I think there's so many, and it has nothing to do with the race. I don't want to hear anything about, it's so amazing that we're going to hire a guy that looks this way. Sherrone Moore has earned this because Sherrone Moore is a damn good football coach.
Yeah.
And he's in the system. You don't have to change the system or the recipe, which is huge. I'll use the word again. Continuity, 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 continuity. When everything else is changing, right? And some people are stubborn, like Dabo Sweeney, that don't want to change. We have all these different type of mindsets going on. The one thing that helps an 18 to 22-year-old more than anything is stability. Why do we talk about having the nuclear family, right? Having a mom and a dad. What does that help you with? Stability, continuity. You know what to expect. You know what's expected of you. And to me, that is worth its weight in gold, in absolute gold, in maize. Let me put it that way. It is worth its weight in maize to be able to have a guy that understands how it works. The players know what they're getting. I'm sure they're going to be as excited as anybody. That
you've already seen Zach Zinter.
We saw this with Marcus Freeman.
Yeah,
we saw something similar. You saw
that's
the way
a good comp.
Yeah, we saw the way the players responded to Marcus Freeman. Why? Because he's in there with them. They don't got to come in here. Oh, hi, my name's this. My favorite color is this. My favorite food is this. No, he knows you.
That's a great comp because Marcus Freeman hasn't won a national championship with Notre Dame since he's taken over. But the floor has been fairly high, and the ceiling, the possibility of a high ceiling is there for sure. That's why I agree with you, and I view this situation entirely different than Alabama. You shouldn't elevate someone who's on staff just to do it, and you shouldn't go for an outside.
No, Tommy Rees shouldn't have got that job.
Exactly. If Kirby Smart was on that staff, he would have been the heir apparent. If Steve Sarkisian was still on Alabama staff, he would have been the successor. Those guys weren't. They went out and did the next thing, which is hire the best coach available, which I think they got a really good one in Kalen DeBoer. Michigan's situation was just different, and I say that understanding that Michigan could go 8-4 next year. They have one of the top 5 toughest schedules in the country with this senior class that came back to win a championship and did it. Those guys are leaving, and guess what? Going 8-4 after a national championship year, that's the status quo. That's normal, not what Kirby Smart and what Nick Saban have been doing for the last 10 years. You know, it's so that's just how I see it.
Yeah, and I want to get to the Booster Club, but I do want to say Jim Harbaugh might have gone 8-4.
Sherrone Moore may catch a lot of strays from just the reality of the circumstance next year, just the way Kalen DeBoer may catch a lot of strays at Alabama for a changing landscape in college football that may have democratized even Nick Saban's teams.
No, without a doubt. All right, I want to get to the Booster Club, but talking about great options, you guys like us, you love going to games, right? Concerts, all type of different things and making memories. And there's nothing like watching your favorite sport in person. I think we can all agree on that. The fans, the food, there's just something about catching it live. That's why you need the Game Time app. This is an unbelievable company. It's a perfect fit for us because you guys have the same interests we do when it comes on to sports. It's a fast and easy way to buy tickets online. Like here in Nashville, we have a little bit of everything around us. We got the NHL, obviously with the Preds. We have a ton of concerts. You know, it's the land of honky tonk. We obviously have the Titans, and you can get tickets up to an hour before the event with Game Time.
Good.
Maybe you decide you want to go late. Maybe something opens up where you can go. Maybe somebody wants to go with you. Using the Game Time app will help you. It's concise. It's very, very easy, and you'll always get the best price guaranteed because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with a Game Time. It's very easy. You just download the Game Time app. All right, you create an account like you would on any other app, and you use our code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code BOOSTER, BOOSTER, for $20 off with the Game Time app. Do it today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed, terms apply. And while you're doing that, please go check out some of the merch we have. We're going to put the link in the chat. That helps us out a ton. Want to give a shout out to Charles Moore. Sent me some more Salt Lick stuff yesterday. I got it in. Going to bring some up here. Got some marinade too. But grab some of that merch. We got a great hoodie. We have a ton of candles and all type of stuff. All right, let's get to the Booster Club.
All right, Booster Club, hit that like, subscribe button. If you donate, it will get asked, whether you're in the Rumble chat, Daily Wire chat, Twitter chat. If you throw something good in there, I will get to it. We're going to start off with Bryce Roberts. Bryce, what is up? He says, what kind of contract do you think they give out to Sherrone Moore with the sanctions coming to hit Michigan? Did they offer him like a 5 or 6 year deal? Because that would be the only way to see how the regime change really goes.
Let's make sure that we separate. If something is coming down the pipe for Michigan, I don't think it's going to be something huge. And you know what's funny? I read a report today. Georgia just got sent improper recruiting and improper coaching things, but you don't hear a lot about that. We saw with the LSU. It's like everybody gets tagged with something. So you hear the word sanctions. You know, a decade and a half ago, you hear the word sanctions, you're like, oh my God. Like probation, bowl bans, loss of scholarships. Sanctions can mean a lot of different things nowadays. It's you know, like we hear, there's levels to it, right? So I don't think we should just jump off the cliff of, oh, Sherrone Moore and Michigan's about to get hammered. I wouldn't go that far yet. Who the hell knows with the NCAA and their swan song? But another aspect that we didn't talk with Sherrone Moore, you don't have to pay him. You don't have to make him the highest paid head coach in the country, right? I'm sure he still feels like he has to earn it as the head man now. So it's kind of a little bit of a daily double.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And he wants the opportunity to prove himself. I saw a post yesterday from one of the regents at Michigan who said they were working to make Jim Harbaugh the highest paid coach in the country, especially since Nick Saban had retired and he had that clause that would always elevate him. So Michigan offered Jim Harbaugh a lot of money. I don't think they would have done that had there been big-time sanctions coming down. I mean, I remember Bill O'Brien's contract at Penn State after the Jerry Sandusky era said something like the more sanctions and the more scholarships reduced, another year gets tacked on to Bill O'Brien's contract or something like that. Yeah. That's not even in the same ballpark of what we're talking about here. No. Michigan wouldn't have offered the highest paid contract.
Well, if I'm Sherrone Moore, and I know he's a smart man, and obviously you want as much money as you can have. We all want to accumulate wealth, right? But I would say, listen, all that money you had ready to pay Jim Harbaugh, I would love if we could take some of that and use it in NIL. Mm-hmm. Help out everybody, right? You have the facilities, you have the resources, right? You need more NIL to go. It's a war chest. That's what it is. Let's be honest. We see this in political campaigns. How big is your war chest? Because depending on how big your war chest is, that's either going to up your odds or lower your odds, depending on how big everybody else's war chest is that you're having to go to battle with. And that's what it is. So I find that part of it fascinating, Bryce. It's a great question.
Let's go to Matt Stivers with the $10 donation. Matt, appreciate it, man. He says, in more we trust. With Fangio parting way with the Dolphins, I'm guessing he may be in L.A. with Harbaugh. So back the Brinks trucks up and keep Jesse Minter in Ann Arbor.
See, we're going to get to the Fangio thing. I think it's more likely he ends up maybe at the Eagles or somewhere like that.
I'm hearing the Eagles too, but he was Harbaugh's DC, not only at Stanford, but also those I believe all 4 seasons in San Francisco.
If you can keep Sherrone Moore and Jesse Minter at Michigan,
it'll be a problem.
That's best case scenario. That is, you talk about limiting the amount of different moving parts within one big transition. I mean, again, you talk about the same recipe. Now there's 2 guys that were cooking in the kitchen with Bobby Flay.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Finley O with the $8 donation. Appreciate it, brother. He says, what coach will have the best roster to work with next season? DeBoer at Alabama or Sherrone Moore at Michigan?
Neither. Kirby Smart at Georgia. But if we're going to say between those 2, I would have to go Alabama. With Jalen Milroe returning. And again, they got Ryan Williams yesterday, which was a big win for that new staff coming in, which, I was telling people too, if I'm a wide receiver, why would I not want to play for Kalen DeBoer? I mean, look at what he just did at Washington. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna throw it more than just about anybody in the system because the OC's coming with him, you know? So, I would say, DeBoer in Alabama. What I'm interested to see is what moves Michigan makes through the transfer portal because they have used it a little bit, but I think they've used it in targeted ways. We always say you don't want to build the ship out of the transfer portal. You just want to plug leaks in the ship with the transfer portal. I kind of want to see who goes to Michigan. Mm-hmm. If you see some guys that kind of go the other way outside of having an exodus like we saw at Alabama.
And they're going to have really good pieces on defense still. Talk about Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnson will be a junior. He'll be one of the top.
And they've learned, David, from the guys that did it.
Now on offense, they're going to have a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do on offense. But we saw Donovan Edwards is going to come back.
Yep.
Again, how does he fill right into that running back 1 role and is your 3-down guy?
He's got to.
Or, I mean, we saw Mullins come in at the end of the year. Is it still a Thunder and Lightning?
You'll have a 2-back.
You'll have a 2-back because you got to. But to me, he's your Jahmyr Gibbs. Mm-hmm. If you use him right.
Yep.
I mean, that's who he is. That's kind of his archetype. Also, the phone lines are open at 7:15 a.m. Central. Go ahead and get those calls in. I want to get to calls earlier today. Took a little bit longer yesterday to get to them, but let's stick to the Booster Club.
Let's go to Chris. He says, Harbaugh took Kaepernick to a Super Bowl. Imagine what he's going to do with Justin Herbert, and they're probably going to draft Brock Bowers.
Yep.
The Chargers are about to put the NFL on notice.
I can't wait.
I would be wary. What the Chargers, offense has always been fine. All right, the Chargers... What's going to make a difference there is your defense. So Harbaugh's got to come in and fix a lot of things, but it's got to be on defense.
You know what's interesting about that, though? And I was doing some research back on his 49ers days. With Jim Harbaugh being an offensive guy and a quarterback developer, he had top 10 defenses at San Francisco with Vic Fangio before he ever had top 10 offenses out there. That's one of the things about the Harbaugh brothers. Jim knows so much about defense. John knows so much about offense. That's what makes them really lethal.
Well, it's what do we say? Balance keeps you on the beam. The 2 teams that I think are going to play in the Super Bowl are the 2 most complete teams in all 3 phases in the game, in the San Francisco 49ers and the Ravens. Not saying that the Lions aren't, right? Obviously, the Chiefs have made big strides defensively. with what they've done really the past 2 years, especially in the second half of games in this year. So, yeah, you survive and thrive based on your ability to play complementary football, because in every sport, sometimes the offense isn't hitting. I use the Warriors example. Believe it or not, there's games where Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the three's not going in, and you've got to win games on defense. How many games, if you go back and remember, did the Warriors win because they buckled down on defense and they were able to stay in the game until the shots started falling? People always remember the games where you score 130 points and Steph goes off for 40. They don't remember the games where the shots aren't falling and you got to go in there in a rock fight and you got to rebound and play defense and do the dirty work and the garbage things. That's why Draymond Green, to me, is the most important piece of the Warriors, because that's what he did. That's what he brought to them. We're not finesse only. We can be if we have to, but if we've got to take this out and turn it into a bar fight, well, I'll take you outside and kick your ass. That's what it is. So if it's going to be a rock fight in a low-scoring game, like we saw with the Niners and the Packers a little bit, sometimes it's not pretty. It's not all Gal Gadot. Sometimes it's Uncle Fester. You got to be able to win in both ways.
All right, let's go to Totally Bogus. Hashtag Ask Crane & Company. What's up, man? He says, what are the chances? Kind of touched on this earlier. What are the chances of the transfer portal floodgates open for Harbaugh leaving for Michigan, just like what happened with Alabama and Nick Saban?
As low as they possibly could be in this situation. I think you're going to get the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Why? Because of that word I started off with, continuity. Continuity. That is the difference. And it helped you before all this transfer portal madness. Because what really is continuity? It's experience, right? That's what it is. I mean, you're used to how it goes. They are not going to change the schedule. They are going to eat at the same time. They are going to lift the same way. They're going to have the same type of meetings. The structure doesn't change. The only thing that changes, and it's not a small thing, all right? I'm not saying that anybody could have got up there and done it, because that's taking away credit from Jim Harbaugh. The buck stops with him. You got to give him credit, and you got to give him blame when it goes good and when it goes bad. But the only thing that's really changing isn't who's calling the plays on offense. Right now, at least, isn't who's calling the plays on defense. The recruiting won't change. It's the nameplate on the head coach desk. That's what changed, right? That's the only thing that changed. And it's not a new guy coming in with a new system or new methodology or new philosophy. It's a guy who knows the recipe. He knows the ingredients. So I think it's going to be as limited as possible. You're not getting tricked. Nobody is going there and, oh man, well, now I'm going to be in a new system that doesn't fit the way I play. No, you're playing in the exact same system. So I don't think you're going to see a lot, if any, in the transfer portal, to be honest with you.
And remember, most of the stars that just won this championship are going to the NFL.
Yeah.
They came back for this, right? And Michigan has an opportunity to break the record in number of players drafted. So
which is nuts
where are they sending guys?
Georgia's done.
Where are they sending guys from the portal to the league this year?
Let's go to OHIO.
Here we go.
He says, as a very delusional Ohio State fan, this has to be our year, right?
I'll say this. I don't make predictions, especially with the transfer portal the way it is now, until fall camp is over. But I'm telling you, the stars are aligning, and I'm not just talking about in the transfer portal for Ohio State, but for Ryan Day. As much, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying they're the same personally, but I think this is, for Ryan Day, this is Jim Harbaugh's Urban Meyer moment.
Yes.
Like you are, because remember, Urban Meyer left. There was that transitory period. Michigan was starting to load up a little bit. You started to see that momentum. You get Caleb Downs to come over. You get Quinshon Judkins to come over. You get Will Howard to come over. We know what you return. You got a bunch of guys returning on defense. You get Ohio. You get Michigan at home this year. Jim Harbaugh's going to the NFL. Sherrone Moore and them aren't going to have that experience at the most important positions that they've had for the past 3 years. If Ryan, this is the best thing that could have happened to Ryan Day, in my opinion. Do I think that Jim Harbaugh is that much better of a coach than Ryan Day? I don't think it's miles wide, but it was big enough for him to lose 3 in a row. And when you look at what they're returning to what Michigan's losing from a personnel standpoint, from players and coaches, this is shaping up for Ohio State to win the Big Ten and kind of get back. And you know what? For Ryan, part of me kind of hopes he does. I know a lot of people don't like Ryan Day. Sometimes I don't like the way he acts, but I know he cares. I know I can tell when somebody genuinely cares about his guys. And say what you want about Ryan Day. Number one, he's won a lot, but you got to beat Michigan. And it is setting up this year for him. And you know what, David? I know Michigan fans out there, they don't want to hear this, but that's good for the rivalry.
Oh, it is. I mean, look, all of this, like going all in right now and being so focused, when we see Ryan Day going and getting 2 of the best players from the SEC, going and hiring Bill O'Brien, that in large part is motivated for what you just saw Michigan do. Forget them beating you, but hoisting that trophy and going undefeated at the end of the season. And just like it was the other way around, when Jim Harbaugh said we're gonna beat them or we're gonna die trying, that's because he lost to them 6 times in a row in Urban Meyer. So that is good for the rivalry. It is good for the sport. I saw an interesting stat though, because Bill O'Brien's coming into the Buckeyes. Bill O'Brien coached for 8 seasons under both Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. And in those 8 seasons, he never won a Super Bowl or a national championship with them. This will be his first one if he wins it.
You want me to tell you what's going to happen? I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen. Ohio State, I think they got a chance. I think Ohio State may end up playing Georgia in the national championship.
I think you're right.
And I think there's a decent chance that Ohio State makes the national championship game, beats Michigan, makes the national championship game, and Ryan Day takes the Bears job, and Bill O'Brien takes over to Ohio State.
Yeah, like guys like that and Lincoln Riley or even this Kalen DeBoer, like who knows how much of them wants to try their hand in the NFL. We knew Jim Harbaugh wanted to because he's already done it and he's had success and he came so close to winning a Super Bowl. But some of these younger guys, even a Lane Kiffin, man, like what's to say Lane Kiffin couldn't go back to the NFL? And if college football doesn't fix some of these problems that we're dealing with, more of these guys are going to leave.
No, and I do want to say this, but before we get into 5 big questions, then we'll go back to the Booster Club and calls. You know, when I look at Bill O'Brien, I caught a lot of flack for saying that I thought Bill O'Brien would end up coming back to college, maybe be the head coach at Alabama, because I know Nick Saban has a ton of respect for him. Caught a lot of flack saying,
he's not. Why you did?
He's not coming back to college. There's no way he's coming back to college. Well, guess what? His ass is back in college now. So it's not at Alabama, but it may end up being Ohio State. But let's go and get to 5 big questions.
All right, they were talking about Vic Fangio. He has parted ways with the Miami Dolphins. Sounds like he's going to become the Eagles' defensive coordinator, which they certainly need it, even though with Jim Harbaugh returning to the NFL and the relationship that he has with Vic Fangio, that could be interesting. The guy's been a defensive coordinator everywhere, was even the Broncos head coach for a little bit. But on the Dolphins side of things, what does Miami need to do now on the defensive side of the ball? We know who runs the ship offensively. We know all the pieces they have. But if Miami's going to take that next step and be an elite team in the NFL away from South Florida and be able to challenge Buffalo in the AFC East, what are they going to do on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, you know, you do get a fresh face over there. And Vic Fangio is a dang good football coach, and he's going to get opportunities. A lot of people are kind of surprised that they parted ways. But if it was me, if I was Mike McDaniel, I look at what John Harbaugh did. I say, hey, you brought in the DC from Michigan in McDonald. Now he's probably going to end up being a head coach. Why would I not try and go get Jesse Minter? That's what I would do if I was the Miami Dolphins. But look, we know the way the NFL works. They just recycle coaches. Like it's one guy will go one place. We see this in the NBA, see this in Major League Baseball, in the professional sports organizations. It's just one big recyclable opening. But no, I would go get Jesse Minter if I was the Dolphins. Schematically, I mean, you've got to be diverse in the NFL. You know, you've got to be able to mix it up. I mean, you know, it's all ball. There's no recruiting. There's no academics. So you do have the opportunity to be as versatile as possible. But you don't have to be the 85 Bears on defense with what you got offensively. You don't have to be. You just have to be good enough to be able to win those games I'm talking about when the offense isn't playing their best. So, look, if it's me, I go get Jesse Minter. He's young. The players will like him. I don't know. That's what I'd do.
Blaine, can Miami be really good on defense with the way they load up on offense and the style they play?
One, if you're a Miami Dolphins fan, you just got to get healthy on defense. I mean, you had a lot of good pieces. You had your D lineman who went out with tore his Achilles, buddy. I feel your pain. You got Jalen Ramsey at corner, Xavier Howard at corner, 2 of the top corners in the NFL. You have Christian Wilkins, one of the top defense on Raekwon Davis from Bama. You have great pieces, but you got to get healthy. The one thing I worry about when it comes to the Miami defense is, your offense is so explosive, right? And they hit so quickly that it's hard not to give up a lot of points if you're this Miami defense. So you have to build what first? You have to build depth. And that's the first thing I'm looking at is the linebacker position. If I'm Miami, so not my first pick in the draft, depending on the depth of this linebacker core coming out, it's either going to be an offensive lineman to protect Tua, because hell, this is the first time we see Tua go through a full season kind of not banged up once he started doing his jiu-jitsu training. Hell, I guess it ended up paying off. So if I'm them, the first thing I'm looking at is drafting a linebacker, especially on the inside, or drafting a tackle or a guard if I'm Miami.
All right, next one up. Joe Barry is also out as the defensive coordinator in Green Bay. Our buddy, who was it, King Don Slovak, who called in, said, get rid of Joe Barry. We didn't know if that'd be the right move, but it has officially happened now. What does Green Bay need to do on defense?
Well, Green Bay's young on both sides of the ball. I think and again, this one, I wasn't shocked, but the way that kind of played at the end, with the momentum the Packers had, I wondered if they were going to shake it up with kind of the way it was looking to the future and all the positive momentum they have right now. I know a lot of guys are in that fan base, and most of them are part owners with the way the Packers do it, are let down that the Niners were able to go down and score on that last drive. But I thought they may try and keep that continuity, to use that word, going again. But listen, I mean, you go out and you try and get the best guy, and I tell you what, I think as a defensive coordinator, looking at the way Matt LaFleur runs his offense, not that anybody runs like some super fast up-tempo offense in the NFL. You really don't see that. The explosive plays happen when you have a guy like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle that can hit you in 3 plays and you're Katie bar the door, we're out of here. But I was a little bit surprised by this. I know there were some times, I mean, you look at a young guy like Rashawn Gary, speaking of Michigan, some of the pieces that, Jair Alexander, some of the pieces they have on defense, the Packers are going to be fine. I just was a little bit surprised that they didn't say, listen, love the way we ended the season, love our future. Let's keep this core of coaches and players. Let's keep growing together. But, I mean, look, Coach LaFleur knows best in that organization. So, to me, I think you go out and try and get an older guy.
Okay.
Maybe a guy that can help these young guys come along, that has a ton of experience. Because, again, schematically, a lot of people do a lot of the same.
Like Leslie Frazier?
Yeah, just somebody like that. I mean, somebody with a lot of experience that the young guys can kind of gravitate to, that the moment's not going to be too big. Not that it was too big for Coach Barrier. He's like some, 19-year-old. But I think the difference in what the Dolphins are going to look for, they could go get a younger guy like Jesse Minter. I think the Packers need a mentor, not a mentor. I think you need an older guy.
I like that. All right, that brings me to the third question here when we're talking about defensive coordinators. Mike Vrabel, the former Titans head coach, has not been named the head coach of any teams. We see Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. Mike McCarthy's going to stay with the Cowboys. Don't really know yet what the Falcons are going to do, and I think, Washington's still open. Should Mike Vrabel take a defensive coordinator position with one of these teams we're talking about? Or is this a situation where, hey, I'm a head coach, I've had success as a head coach, I will even sit out this cycle possibly if it means getting another head coaching job next year?
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go be a defensive coordinator. I just, again, some guys, and it's different with different individuals, and you want to be accumulating a paycheck, but that's why they have buyouts. When I look at Mike Vrabel, I think he's a guy that was at the top, that had all the power, that knows the way he wants to do it. Obviously, it didn't work out with the Titans. You can go back to the Malik Willis deal, all this, this, that, and the other, Ryan Tannehill, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think he wants to go be a coordinator again. I think he'd be willing to sit out a year and see what type of, if you have kind of more change in the head coach at the head coaching position next year in the NFL, which is a possibility, as opposed to this year where there wasn't a ton of movement. There was some movement. Obviously, look at the Falcons. You look at the Chargers, the Patriots moving on for Bill Belichick. But I think there's going to be a chance. The Raiders, obviously, Antonio was the interim, and then he got made the head coach out there. I think he's going to sit out.
What do you think? What do you think will happen?
I think he needs to take a DC job. Look, I think Mike Vrabel did good and did bad. Just from a roster management standpoint, it was just really bad in Tennessee.
Is that his fault, though?
I think it's a little bit his fault and a little bit of the management's fault. I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. From a drafting standpoint, I mean, from a player injury standpoint, Mike Vrabel's teams are the most injured football teams, especially walking into the playoffs, and that cannot happen. So from a roster management standpoint, I'm very weary of hiring Mike Vrabel. I think Mike Vrabel needs to go be a DC somewhere. I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to get another head coaching job in the NFL.
Really?
I don't think he is.
Wow.
No, I disagree.
I don't think he is.
We'll see. It could happen today. All right, 2 more here. The ACC football schedules have been released for 2024. Right now, we know Cam Ward coming into Miami. DJ Uiagalelei is going to replace Jordan Travis at Florida State. Some changes over at North Carolina. Our buddy Jeff Collins is going to be the defensive coordinator. Right now, who's your horse for the ACC next year?
Well, it's, to me, you look at what Florida State has. You look at what they've accumulated in the portal. I mean, I don't know if anybody, I know Caleb Downs went to Ohio State and Julian Sand, a recruit, committed there. But I don't know if anybody benefited more from a roster or transfer portal standpoint with Nick Saban retiring than Florida State. Look at the amount of Alabama players that went to Florida State. I do think Cam Ward makes Miami a problem. And I know a lot of people are, Mario Cristobal can't coach. This guy, and look, take a knee when you're supposed to take a knee. I can't believe I'm having to say that, but outside of that, I think Mario does some good things with a young offensive line that is very, very talented. Now, I know Miami lost some pieces on defense, but when you look at a guy like Cam Ward, I think he can make up for some of the deficiencies that Tyler Van Dyke, who's now at Wisconsin, which that should be interesting, including playing Alabama week 3, I believe. His ability to run and extend the play, I think, gives Miami kind of another weapon to go to battle with. I think he can kind of overcome, like I said, some of the deficiencies they had. The most intriguing team to me is Clemson with Dabo Swinney, who, again, has refused to really embrace the transfer portal, who has refused to really kind of evolve, and it feels like they're more dissolving in Clemson. How do they bounce back with Cade Klubnik coming back for another year, right? You do lose Shipley, but we know Clemson has talented players. I'm just very interested to see, with as much pressure as there is now on Dabo, after the seasons that they've had the past couple of years and the way that standard's been raised, I never count Clemson out. But right now, when I look at the ACC, Georgia Tech with Brent Keys, very, very interesting with what they did last year. Louisville.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
With Jeff Brom, with what they've been able to do and kind of some of the surprises they've gotten in a positive note in the transfer portal. But right now, I still think, even with Jordan Travis moving on, even with Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman, I think Florida State supplanted those guys enough in the transfer portal to be the favorite again. It's just quarterback. That's going to be the question.
So what do you think, Blaine? Can Louisville still be a problem in the ACC next season?
I think they might even be a bigger problem in the ACC next season,
Really?
to be honest. I think Plummer held them back in certain situations. I
don't think you're crazy.
you got to remember, this is Brom's first year walking in and doing this. I'm pretty sure you're losing Thrasher, receiver. He's going to be an NFL guy, but I'm not worried about receiver when it comes to Louisville. They always got some couple cats running around anyways. But the biggest surprise to me when it comes to Louisville was their defense.
Yeah.
Right? Their defense is what got them over the hump this year. And I kind of like a team you brought up with Georgia Tech. I mean, Georgia Tech was in a lot of football games this year, and you're bringing back Haynes King. You're developing a system there, but I do think probably the team that's going to win the most is Clemson, right? You're bringing back Cade Klubnik. You know the winning just tradition that comes with Clemson.
I mean, are they, though?
But Miami, I'm telling you, Miami can be a problem. Miami can be a problem extremely quickly because Miami's already really good where? Up front. Miami will be able to compete with most teams in college football up front. You add a guy like Cam Ward. You still have a couple pieces at receiver. Miami always had guys on defense who are under the radar, first 2-round picks, whether it's a linebacker or a safety. So if there's a team I'm looking out for to make a jump this year, it's the Miami Hurricanes.
All right, last one here. Let's go to college basketball. Auburn and Alabama last night in Coleman Coliseum, a heck of a game. Alabama wins 79-75, but it was back and forth there for a while. Mark Sears dropped 22 points. Alabama was 11 of 30 from three. Looking at these two teams and the way they're going at each other and just the landscape of the SEC and nationally right now, do you see Auburn or Alabama making the Final Four this year?
I think they both have the capability. I still question Alabama's ability outside of Coleman. Outside of their home court, right? I mean, they were right at 11 threes they hit last night. They shoot very well in that building. I think they're 45% from three in Coleman. But when they leave there, their lack of inside presence and the lack of Grant Nelson, and we talked about this with Ron Slay yesterday, and having a legitimate big man. Look, I know Pringle can do some things. I know Wagyu can do some things. I just worry about Bama when the three's not falling because they're not playing at home, right? We talk about that balance. Can you win? And on the other hand, Auburn's got the same problem. Auburn's like 8 for 52 from three outside of Neville Arena. But you got Janai Broome, who had a big game last night. You've got Dylan Cardwell. You've got answers. Alabama needed that bounce back win coming off of the Tennessee loss, especially the kind of the physical beatdown that Tennessee gave them. And see, the best part now, and I tell people this, you can't look at basketball like football. You can, oh my God, we lost a game. We're out of it. We're bad, whatever. That's not how it works. Alabama probably will not lose an SEC game at home. Probably won't. And they're going to run a lot of people out of the gym. Like not even close. And Auburn almost got ran. They're down 14 at halftime. They had to come back. I think they started off with a 9-0 run. I do think Auburn is the more versatile team. I think they can win in more ways on a neutral court. Because once you get to the NCAA tournament, there ain't no home games. Like you're playing on a new court. So You're not going to have the feel that you have at home where you can say, all right, well, we may not play great for segments, but we're going to hit 11 threes, so we're going to be fine. I told people this on social media before the game yesterday. Regardless of who wins, neither fan base should panic, right? Number one, you want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But if you're going to sit here, both teams are now 5-1 in the conference, right? Auburn's got to go to Mississippi State on Saturday. I'm not sure who Alabama plays next, but I was not surprised by the outcome last night. But Auburn has got to find a way to either stop shooting as many threes on the road where they're not comfortable, or you got to start making them. I think the obvious answer is you got to start making them, or people are just going to let you shoot them. Now, you go home, you shoot in your home gym, yeah, you're going to make a lot of them. Hell, I'm watching Chad Mazzara kick them in during pregame warmups. But it's the ability to shoot on the road. And if the baskets aren't falling, but I do want to say this. I think Alabama's season turned last year when they lost to Tennessee and got physically beat down. Because that showed them, hey, we can't be soft and win. Right? We can run up and down and shoot threes and do all this, but we can't be soft and win. Offensive rebounding last night for Alabama was huge. A lot of people talk about the threes. They'll talk about Griffin getting hot in the first half, right? They'll talk about Auburn's lack of ability to shoot it. But Bama was able to get on the boards on offense last night and hold their own. That was the separator at the end, was the offensive rebound. And Auburn can't give that up. You're the bigger team. You've got to assert yourself. So it was a great basketball game. I am disappointed with ESPN and Jay Williams and the crew. You had a chance last night, and I think Alabama fans will agree with me on this. The state of Alabama, this is the golden era of basketball in the state. Look at who's won the SEC the last 5 years. Look at who's won the SEC tournament. Auburn and Alabama have made themselves at the top of the SEC with the Kentuckys, right? With the Tennessees. And last night, you open up talking about football. You have Jalen Milroe there. Why can't we give an ode to what Nate Oates has done and talk about the atmospheres that you get at the games now? Talk about the winning and the way the script has been flipped all throughout the state. And then you bring up the fact that Jay Williams is talking about, a black quarterback trying to win at Alabama. Dog, that's so disrespectful.
He said that?
Yeah, that's so disrespectful.
Was that just because of the technical difficulties they were having?
Well, they kept Jalen Milroe on longer, but when the game started, when the lights came on, he's talking about, what it would mean for a black quarterback to win a national championship at Alabama. You ever met Jalen Hurts, man? What about Tua? I know Tua's not African-American, but just stop with this. Stop with it. How about you talk about the game? Alabama has black players all over the roster. This isn't 1950, dog. It's disrespectful to people that are from the state when Jay Will, who went and trashed Alabama's attendance for the Clemson game, brought a tennis ball to the game saying and that's fine, whatever. But we got to get over this bull because that's what it is. Show up, and if you want to talk about football, that's fine. That's not the worst thing of all time. But acting like we're still a segregated state, or it'd be amazing for a black quarterback at Alabama to win a national championship. Wake your ass up, Jay Will. Wake up. This isn't 1950. Stop inventing oppression. Jalen Milroe's got it as good as anybody's ever had it as the quarterback at Alabama. We got to move past this. He's not a black quarterback. He's not a white quarterback. He's a quarterback for Alabama. And the more we look at it and say, he's a black guy at quarterback, the more you bring race into it. We're past it. Talk about basketball. If you're going to talk about football, talk about the new coach. Stop talking about the race of the quarterback. We're tired of hearing this bullshit, man. Excuse my language.
Blaine, what do you think? Back to, we were on, can Auburn or Alabama be Final Four teams? But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, too. I missed that part.
Look, I think Alabama's good enough to win the national championship, to be honest, and they might as well.
Well, see, why do you say?
They might as well just walk.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
okay. I see what you're doing.
No, but, look, these games are always wild. I don't think there's a loser when it comes to this game. It's basketball, and Auburn, if you're complaining about actually losing an SEC game, it must be high-class problems. And, guys, we finally made it. But as an Auburn fan, you expect this. I think Alabama came out and hit their first 8 threes.
Yeah. They'll come to Neville and Auburn will win by 20.
Didn't miss a shot, but these are two extremely good basketball teams. If it's Auburn, look, you got to play perimeter defense, especially against this Alabama team, especially when they're at home, and you can't turn the ball over and not hit threes.
Yeah.
All right. So, at the end of the day, if you look at me and said Alabama has more fast break points than Auburn, but I'm like, Auburn probably is going to be in trouble anyways. But I do think Katie Johnson, it's such a double-edged sword with him.
Dude, can I tell you the funniest quote Jimmy Dykes? Jimmy Dykes said, Katie Johnson is the only player in the country where when he goes on the court, the opposing coach goes, oh, man. And then his coach goes, oh, man.
That's funny.
That's funny.
You have to, it's Katie Johnson has, an immediate rebound rate of what just happened. Katie Johnson could have the worst turnover foul 3 times, has the worst turnover ever, and he'll just go.
He's been better this year.
3 threes in a row.
I watched him bring the ball back out and set up the offense.
Simple things. It's simple things for Auburn. I think Alabama played physical basketball, and they did it in the paint and doing it on rebounds, and that's Alabama's key. You're good enough. Alabama's one of those teams that they can get hot at the right time and make a run. Right? Auburn, kind of a steady Betty a little bit. We're going to play good defense. We're going to turn you over. We're going to get inside. We're going to run good play and focus on our players. Alabama, as we get hot, we can roll right now.
Yep. Well, speaking about, not rolling. But look, you got to look good to play good, right? We talk about the lights at Coleman Coliseum last night going off for that first possession. Auburn hit a 3. I was like, call the game.
Oh, I said
game's
if this
over.
was fantasy football.
I said game's over.
If this were fantasy football, it'd be called.
Yeah, if you don't know what we're talking about, the lights at Alabama's arena last night didn't work. Like, during the tip, I was watching and I was like, God, it looks so dark. Then Janai Broome hit that 3, and I was like, it may just be the way that I'm looking at it. And then they stopped the game. First off, how's that not a tech, right? Why would we not get 2 shots in the ball there? You turn the lights off. If it was me, I'd have just flicked them on and off. With that, but they did say Roll Tide Willie was the one in charge of the lights.
Oh.
Which was hilarious. But you got to look good to play good. And if you're one of the millions of American men or women dealing with premature hair loss, or maybe you're scared about inheriting that thinning look because it runs in the family, we know the fear, all right? All of a sudden, you look at your dad. Oh, no, is that going to be me? Am I going to have to wear a hat, or am I going to look like Howie Mandel, or what's going on? But you need to start 2024 off right with a real solution that delivers on its promise without the harsh side effects of unwanted chemicals, and there's no need for a prescription. Provia, it's safe. They use a natural ingredient called Procapil, and it guarantees more hair on your head than in the shower or on your comb, and it's effective for men and women, and this is very important, so men and women of any age, and it's safe on colored, treated, and styled hair. It's that easy. And right now, all right, customers can save over 50% plus free shipping on Provia's introductory package at proviahair.com/booster. And every order includes your choice of a free gift right now at checkout. Like I said, it works. It's 100% guaranteed or your money back. Don't wait. And if you order right now, you can get an extra 10% on top of that and free shipping at proviahair.com/booster. That's PROVIA.com/booster. Go check it out right now. I do want to say, listen, I like Jay Will a lot. I think he's a really good basketball analyst. I was very disappointed because I don't think he doesn't use that card like that a lot. Maybe they just didn't have anything to talk about at that point. I don't know. But I think I was more disappointed. I expected from other people there. You know, I expect it from the Jamel Hills and the race whistlers that are out there. I didn't expect it from Jay Williams. I love his analysis. I loved him as a player. I was really, really disappointed in that.
Well, my wife's saying in the chat that she went on a rant about this last night too, and I missed it because the Jim Harbaugh news had just broken. So
yeah, you were in the corner. You were like Emily Rose in the corner, like eating spiders and like freaking out.
I was like, no, it's not true. He's not going to the Chargers.
It's a lie. Sit on a throne of lies.
Deceiving.
All right, we got calls. The lines are open. I want to get to that in a second, David. Real quickly though, Booster Club.
Chad, let's go to Malcolm Martin with a $5 donation. Malcolm, appreciate it, brother. Vrabel took over a playoff caliber team, and winning percentage was .545. Mike Malarkey took over a 2-20 team and went 4. Winning percentage was .488. Better coaching stint with the Titans, Mike Malarkey or Mike Vrabel?
Well, I mean, when you look at it like that, I mean, it's
look. If your last name is Malarkey, you got to win.
Yeah, well,
you have to win.
Yeah, and there can't be no funny business.
Or there'll be a bunch of Malarkey out here.
Yeah, I would say Malarkey. I'd say Malarkey.
I'll say Mike Vrabel. I mean, those defenses in the first couple of years were so feared. And look, not everybody gets to have Derrick Henry on their team, and I wonder how much of
here's the truth. You missed at quarterback.
But not only missed, though, here's the thing. And again, I never know who has personnel control in the NFL when it comes to coaching and how much was on the GM. But I know that Mike Vrabel stuck with Tannehill season after season. And look, Ryan exceeded every expectation. You were a wide receiver at Texas A&M. Yeah. Didn't play great football with the Miami Dolphins, comes into the Titans and played really well. But the thing, and we were just talking about Jim Harbaugh, who got the most out of Alex Smith early. It took him to NFC championships. He immediately drafted the next quarterback to develop, to get him ready, and moved on, made the tough decision to move on to Colin Kaepernick. Sometimes that's what it takes. I think defensive-minded coaches is a little bit harder for them, especially when you think, oh, well, our offense will run through Derrick Henry. It hasn't worked.
And quickly, and I know you can't sit here and just be a running quarterback all the time in the NFL. You're not going to survive. Like, I mean, you look at Cam Newton was hot for a while, but just took so many hits, and he's a monster. But like Ryan Tannehill, I remember watching him at Texas A&M. I remember watching him receiver, like, man, this guy can really move. And then you go to the Titans, you try and turn him into Drew Brees. The same thing the Cowboys did with Dak Prescott. Let's just negate one of the best parts of your game and try and turn you into something you're not. Why is Lamar Jackson so deadly? He's a much better thrower of the ball than some people thought. But they use his legs. Like Ryan Tannehill didn't use his legs. Buddy, like that was one of your best moves. Not that we're going to line up and run Q power and power read the whole game, but goodness gracious, man. Like, the man's not Dan Marino.
They thought that's what Marcus Mariota would deliver, right? So you missed on Marcus Mariota, who underperformed, but Ryan Tannehill, in many respects, overperformed. But again, you hung on too long, I think.
I agree with that.
Let's go to Escape from Illinois, man. I hope you make it out. He says, as a Michigan fan, I feel like the guy that brought the prom queen to the dance and had a perfect night, only to wake up to a letter and a rose and her being gone forever. Glad it happened, but feel sad and used.
And you'll always have that night.
Yeah, you always have that night. Look, y'all are going to different colleges anyway. You know what I'm saying? Like, this wasn't going to work. Long distance? You're going to UTEP. She's going to South Florida. Come on, man. There ain't nobody being faithful.
I know I saw some people posting, man, we really could have been the dominant force and created a dynasty over the next 5 years. And maybe that could have happened. Maybe that'll still happen with Sherrone Moore. But I'll continue to say Jim Harbaugh was not going to be any more endeared by the fan base than he is right now. I don't care if he won 5 championships in a row. That first one to get you over the hump. We had Matt Moscona on talking about Nick Saban winning that 2003 national championship at LSU. The 19 team was equally as impressive and went undefeated, but LSU fans, after that long drought, they'll always remember that 03 championship a little different.
This is what I'll tell Michigan fans. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
Big facts.
All right, you want to get the calls?
Let's do it. We got Trey on the line in Atlanta, unless he gets on here and says his name is Trace, in which case I can't control that. But for right now, you're going to be Trey. How you doing?
Tra.
Yes. Hi, guys.
Okay, this is Trey.
Got it right.
What's up, Trey?
Hey, man, the air smells a little bit cleaner today, even though it's raining. The outside's a little bit brighter, And I'm not just talking about the win last night, because that was a hell of a game. I think Jake said everything correctly. It's basketball. You can't chalk up the one game. Was happy the way they performed. But I stopped on X. You stop seeing all this, oh, Alabama's dead. Oh, the end is near. People screaming in the streets, because guess what Kalen DeBoer did? Now, yes, the guy was committed to Alabama, but he decommitted. He was able to re-recruit him. And I've been seeing a lot of comps, and I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer.
If you say it, Trey, you say this, I'm going to have to put you on the floor. Just go ahead and say it. Say Julio Jones. Say it. Please say it.
Why is it not a good comp?
Here's why.
I'm not saying he's Julio. What I'm saying is he was able to get a massive recruit and prove that, yes, I can recruit, but you can also be successful here.
Okay.
That's the whole.
Stand by your comp, Trey. Stand by that comp.
Stand on business, Trey. You stand on business,
Julio Jr.
Nobody is saying that he is Julio. They are saying.
I get that.
What people are saying is
this is his Julio moment, right?
Yes,
like when Saban got Julio.
Able to land a massive. Now the two. Now he is not going to recruit as high as Saban is, but the point is, the comp is, hey, you were able to get a massive recruit in your first year, like that. That puts you on the map. Now Alabama's on the map, but I'm talking about Kalen DeBoer. It's a different situation here.
Yeah.
So my point is, he's not going to be Julio. He might, but he's not going to be. Julio is a generational player. Right. Yeah,
Julio's huge.
Just the fact that you landed him.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. Yeah. Here's two things can be true at once. And I would say this if it was another school. When I look at Alabama, the thing that made Julio such a big signee, number one, you hired Nick Saban. That was huge. Where Alabama was when Nick Saban took over, as opposed to where Kalen DeBoer is when he took over, are two totally different things. The reason that signing was so big is because Alabama had kind of, not in the dark ages so much, but they were not having the success level that they were having now. That was a huge coup to go in and say, listen, Alabama is going to reestablish themselves as the Alabama from old by getting guys like Julio. Julio wasn't a recommitment, right? If Alabama's to the point now, and listen, getting Ryan Williams is massive. He's a hell of a player. That's a recommitment. And when I tweeted this out yesterday, Clint Lamb, good friend of mine, does a hell of a job for the Alabama On 3 site, said, well, Reuben Foster was a recommitment that was celebrated. Cyrus Kwanjo was. Okay, so 3 guys How long was Saban at Alabama?
17 years.
17 years. 3 guys out of a 17-year stint. So one guy every 5.5 years that recommitted. It's the same thing as getting Ryan Williams to recommit in year 1 under Kalen DeBoer. It's not to me. But when you compare it to Julio Jones, I'll say it again, where Alabama was when Nick Saban took over was in a very, very, very different spot than where Alabama is right now. It's a huge coup. Why would you not want to play for Kalen DeBoer if you're a wide receiver? And you look at what Rome did and Polk did and McMill did, and it is big because Nick Saban did leave. But let's not act like Caleb Downs is coming back. Let's not act like there wasn't this mass exodus.
Right, but because but because of those things, because Nick Saban left, because you start taking hits to the current class that you had, to your some of your best players leaving, and all the talk, all the negativity. Because of that, I think it's maybe just slightly under a Julio get in 2008.
See, now you hit it. Now you're right, in my opinion.
It's not the same as saying, like, Alabama was in the dark ages. They're in the dark ages, and they got this guy, and it absolutely lit a fire under college football and in Alabama. And I think this is much of the same, where like they were like literally bleeding, like we are dying, like metaphorically dying, right? Like everyone thinks that we're dead and gone. And then someone comes in here and sutures us up.
They put the tourniquet on it.
Williams, it stops the blood. It stops the bleeding. And
it's
it
huge.
Turns the narrative around.
Yeah,
right?
it's huge.
It is.
I agree. I am not saying for everybody out there who's like, oh, you're an Auburn fan, so you're right. No, this is huge for Alabama. Ryan Williams is an amazing player. I think he's going to be an all-SEC player. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on saying this is a Julio Jones moment. Let's be easy.
I'm out, but gas it up.
Yeah,
you put all the gas.
Well, if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I almost don't want y'all to say that.
Yeah, because
hey, Alabama players got chips on their shoulders, guys.
Yeah, well, they had Nick Saban manipulates that, and Kirby Smart does it too. That's what they do. But let's pump the brakes a little bit on Julio Jones moment here. Okay,
I agree.
Y'all just had 17 years of beating people to death.
Yes, but if everyone's going to come after you the last couple of weeks and say, "Oh, mass exodus, it's over, all your players are leaving,"
that.
Then
That
look for a win. You can get one.
You need a win, and it was a win. That's very
Trey, I appreciate that perspective.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Standing on business, Trey.
Yeah, Michael in Texas. Michael, how you doing?
Morning, guys. It's definitely bittersweet morning today with what happened last night. I've been mentally trying to prepare for something like this to happen, and it's like you guys said. It's you had that one beautiful night with that girl, and then next thing you know, next morning she's gone with the rose and the letters. So
I think it's bigger than that, though. It's bigger than one night.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh.
I don't know. Depends on what happened that one night.
Yeah, you're in Paris for 3 months.
Well, look, Jim Harbaugh, honestly, I mean, we've seen this Jim Harbaugh to the NFL cycle happen every single offseason that he's been there. He could have taken the Vikings job probably 2 seasons ago, right? He could have taken a job last cycle before he won a national championship. Yeah. At least Michigan got that. At least they got that. And the fact that he waited until he accomplished that, it says a lot about him. The guy wants to win a Super Bowl, and Michigan can't.
Well, let me ask this, Michael. As a Michigan fan, if I would have told you 3 years ago that Jim Harbaugh in 3 years is going to win the national championship, with where y'all were before it kind of turned around, Jim Harbaugh in 3 years was going to win a national championship, but leave y'all to go to the NFL, I guarantee you'd have taken it on the spot.
I would have asked you I don't know what you're taking, but give me some of that. Because
that's exactly.
I would have taken it. Yeah, me too.
But, I was going to say, I think for all Michigan fans, young and old, these last 3 years have definitely been the best 3 years that this is probably the most fun we've ever had as football fans with what we've experienced. Now, Jake, you were talking about continuity, and I agree with you. And there's one name that hasn't been mentioned yet that we're keeping. It's Ben Herbert, the strength coach.
Yeah.
Harbaugh said he's, quote, the heartbeat of the program. He's signing an extension to stay at Michigan. So
that's a great point.
Those two and Jesse Minter, those 3 guys are the key to keeping this train going.
I don't think Jesse Minter will stay. I don't think Jesse Minter will stay, but I'm so glad you saw the strength coach news.
Well, what other normal-looking white guy do y'all got waiting in the wings to just be great at calling defense?
I hope somebody from the Baltimore.
Yeah, they're like, hey, don't worry, guys. We got Trevor Smitherson.
But the strength and conditioning coach and that whole staff and support staff, it shouldn't be underestimated, because when Rich Rodriguez came in when I was there, after having played for Lloyd Carr, everything changed. I mean, the training staff maybe stayed the same, but there were new strength coaches, right? There were new position coaches. He came in and everybody was new, and that really takes a toll in the building.
Yeah,
it does. David, I know you mentioned don't be mad at Ward Manuel, and I'm not as mad as I was yesterday, but there was a report from one of the local journalists who said that Michigan finally, at quote the 11th hour, was going to give Harbaugh what he wanted, not really the money, but also that protection from any sanctions that were to come down. But by the time they agreed to it, it was too late. Harbaugh was already negotiating his deal with the Chargers. So Ward definitely dropped the ball on that.
Sure.
And just outside of football, under Ward's tenure, we lost John Beilein from basketball.
Yep.
And I forget the guy's name for baseball, but we made that College World Series trip, and he was gone in a couple of years. So Ward doesn't give any of us confidence in doing what's supposed to be the right thing. Now we'll see with Sherrone Moore. Hopefully he can make up for all that. But yeah, as long as Ward's the AD, unless he fixes what he's broken, then
I think y'all want to spite him.
I don't know.
Yeah, look, no, we can do a whole.
I hope so.
I'd love to do a whole segment on why they should replace Ward Manuel. All I'm saying is, when you say that at the 11th hour they finally agreed to give Jim Harbaugh what he wanted, again, Michigan couldn't ultimately give him what he wants, and that's a Super Bowl ring. And I don't even think it's about money. Yes, he will make more money in the NFL, but kudos to Jim Harbaugh. I don't think his decisions are about money. I think that this was just something that he always wanted to do. There's plenty of blame to go around for Ward Manuel, not for the other sports you mentioned, but in this Jim Harbaugh situation specifically. All I'm saying is, in this moment, for Michigan fans, don't be reckless the next couple days in saying that Jim Harbaugh is going back to the NFL because Ward Manuel botched everything and because the NCAA is out to get Jim Harbaugh. Both those things may be true, but at the end of the day, the guy wants to win a Super Bowl.
Definitely. Thanks, Mike.
Appreciate it, man.
Right. For sure. Thanks, guys. Have a good
one.
All
right. Let's go to Caveman 2.0 in Mississippi.
Wow.
Morning,
Caveman.
boys.
What's
Good
up,
morning, man? What's going on?
So I got a question for you, David. You and I are both tennis aficionados, as I like to put it.
Oh, well, thank you.
Okay.
I've got him fooled.
So we got the semifinals for some late night Australian Open tonight. Djokovic in center and Zverev and Medvedev. I have to say, I'm pretty high on Zverev. He's been playing very high level tennis, but Djokovic is just that. He's the guy. You've got to beat the guy to be the guy.
Yep. Yeah, man.
So
I mean, Djokovic is. Oh, go ahead.
My question to you is, do you think one of these young guys finally steps up in the Australian Open? Because that's Djokovic's tournament. He's won it 10 times.
I know.
Or do you think he just steamrolls again?
Well, like I've said before, Rafael Nadal has been my favorite tennis player for a long time, but I have no problem admitting that Novak Djokovic is the greatest to ever do it. He shows no signs of stopping. I will say I did take Zverev in that match against Alcaraz. I took him plus 5.5. He ends up winning outright, which was insane. So I think we're going to be in store for some great tennis the next couple days. But betting against Novak Djokovic at any Grand Slam, but especially in Australia, is not something I'm going to be doing, and that is reflected in my picks that I'll be taking.
Yeah, what I think about it is just what David said.
I think Andy Roddick's going to win.
What a great serve.
I got John McEnroe.
Yeah, give me Pete Sampras.
I got Billie Jean King in 3 sets.
And secondly, so of course you boys know, diehard Rebels fan, hotty toddy.
Yep.
For the next year, I have expectations of at least a 10-2 season, maybe even 11-1. And going into the 12-team college playoff. My question to you is how do we, especially as someone who just went through that roller coaster of the playoffs and winning a national championship, how do you manage expectations and reset every week and stay locked in on target?
Well, that's the hardest thing. That's what we talk about all the time. It's a faceless opponent. You have to impart to your players. The game plan and scouting report will change, but it's not so much about the name on the other team's jersey. It's about the name on our jersey and us getting better fundamentally at what we do, being able to overcome adversity, by going back to what we do best. I think, it's hard to, you're not going to get guys to play at their top for 12 games. You may get 5 games where you're playing really, really well in complementary football. But it's when you convince them that it's not about the other team, is you can make it through those games, you have to win. And you go back to any national championship team or any team that had a chance to win a national championship and got to that game. There were moments and there were games where everything wasn't going good and you had to find a way to win. I always use the 2010 Auburn at Kentucky example. Auburn goes undefeated, had to kick a game-winning field goal at Kentucky. You look at Michigan and Maryland last year. Like in those games where you may not be playing the Alabamas and the Georgias, right? You've got to be able to survive. Look at the 49ers against the Packers last week. It wasn't beautiful, but you were able to survive. But it's convincing your guys it's not about the other team. It is about us. And if you make Monday the same, and Tuesday the same, and Wednesday the same, and Thursday the same, and Friday the same, regardless if you're playing Georgia or you're playing Georgia State, most of the time Saturday is going to be the same. And that's the goal.
Appreciate it, K-Man.
Man, y'all gonna be damn good.
Bud.
Thanks, man. I can't wait to watch.
Y'all gonna be real good
Lane
this
looks focused, man. It's fun to see.
Yeah.
All right, lines are full. Let's keep cruising. Matthew in Arkansas, how you doing?
It's Heartbroken Hog here.
God,
boys,
y'all got destroyed last night. Are you all right, man?
I mean, what? I have no idea. I mean, I hate to say it, this Eric Musselman team may be worse than any team Mike Anderson ever fielded on the floor. Mean, my goodness.
Well, Matthew, we talked about this with Ron Slay yesterday, and I thought he brought up a great point. You've got no point guard. You've got no distributor. I'm going to tell you right now, Devo Davis wants to score, okay? I don't think Devo Davis wants to go out there and kick the ball around and do all this. But I'm very disappointed with Trevin Brazile. He's supposed to be preseason SEC Player of the Year candidate. You couldn't find this guy if he was in a crowd full of elves. And he's 6'11". But here's the difference. And I've said this multiple times. Most of Eric Musselman teams, even going back to Nevada with the Twins, they don't shoot it great, right? They're slashers, they're drivers, they're physical, they're nasty. They are what Texas A&M has been under Buzz Williams, and that's what Eric Musselman has been. And they've made up for lack of shooting, right, jump shooting, with ability to drive, with offensive rebound, with being dominant and physical and being athletic and running and jumping and finishing at the rim. This team doesn't do that. What do they do? And they don't play defense. They don't play hard on defense. This is the most opposite, and I've got a ton of respect for Eric Musselman. I think he's a really good coach. I just think this is an anomaly. I think this team is an anomaly. And, when you go to the transfer portal, as much as Arkansas has, right, sometimes eventually you feel like you're...
I think it is.
Yeah, it's worked in the past, but it's not... Again, it's the most underrated part of the transfer portal is culture, is chemistry, is building that together, that togetherness that you have to have. Arkansas doesn't have that. And if they don't watch out, it's going to fall off even faster because there are no off nights in the SEC. It could get really, really ugly, but if anybody could fix it, it's the Muscle Man.
I was gonna bring it up. Speaking of your next not having an off night, you play Kentucky Saturday, January 27th.
Oh,
so if there's ever a chance to bounce back,
college game day is coming to town for the first time to Bud Walton, and we look like this.
Hey, if there's ever a chance to bounce back, though,
well, I'll say this Kentucky basketball team, they don't play defense very well. They can light it up. They'll drop a 90-piece on you with some Cajun fries and a honey biscuit real quick, but. Y'all, no, it's been shocking to watch.
Thanks, Matthew. Appreciate it, man.
See you, Matt.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Matt.
it, buddy.
All right, let's go to Jake in Florida. Jake, how you doing?
It's you.
Good morning, guys.
Jake, what's up, buddy? Love that name. What a great name.
Good morning, number 2.
Definitely not calling to brag about last night's win or Ryan Williams' commitment.
All right, good. Good to hear from you,
All right,
man.
Jake from Florida.
Great, Jake.
Thanks, Jake from Florida.
No, I just want to comment on the whole basketball thing real quick and then football. My only comment about basketball is you said it very well, Jake. Basketball in the SEC the last couple of years has run through the state of Alabama. And honestly, can we build Nate Oates an arena that he deserves?
Yeah. Well, listen, and I said this to my wife last night. I think as bad of a look as that was, and I thought it was funny when they had to go back to the studio when they were fixing the lights. They had the former head coach of Georgia Tech, Josh Pastner, was one of the analysts, and he was like, "We had the lights not work at Georgia Tech one time," and he said half the opposing players came over and was like, "Isn't this an engineering school?" He's like, "How do y'all not have the lights working?" But that's beside the point. If that may have been the best thing that could have happened to Nate Oates last night. Greg Byrne went over and apologized to Bruce Pearl. Yep. Like, if I'm Nate Oates, it's like, okay, build it. Build it. We can't have this. Yeah. You're a top basketball program in the country right now. We can't have the lights going off. Now, I don't know how much NIL y'all spent on Ryan Williams, and maybe y'all just couldn't pay the power bill or whatever and had to reach into those deep pockets. Obviously, that's not the case. But, no, I think it could be the best thing to happen to Nate Oates because, hey, guess what? Proof's in the pudding now, buddy. Live on ESPN in the biggest game of the season.
Yep.
No, I heard Roll Tide Willie stole the copper out of the Coliseum. So
sounds like
I for a second I thought that was the mayor.
They done stupid by doing that.
Will someone buy this man some shoes?
No, that's part of the persona.
No, dog.
They done stupid
if y'all
by doing
care
that,
about
Lane.
The man's walking around barefooted inside a basketball arena.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
Well, it's almost like Tarzan. Like they got Tarzan to they got him into the village.
It's like Buddy the Elf, and they have to keep telling him not to eat gum.
Off the street.
That was awful. That was awful. Appreciate it, Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Oh, thanks, man.
Oh, go ahead.
So switching over to football real quick, the Ryan Williams commitment, I just want to say I don't think it's on the same scale as the Julio commitment, but to the fans, to the Alabama fans, it feels that way because the one question mark that Kalen DeBoer had was could he recruit? And that's what the fans have been waiting on. We've been trying to see, can this guy actually come in and recruit? Obviously not at the same level as Nick Saban, but the question so far has been answered, and I think that's why you're seeing that commitment be celebrated to the point that it is. Because it's almost like a sigh of relief, you know?
Well, it's a positive sign when there were some negative things. But I will go back again and I will say this. I think Ryan Williams was always going to Alabama, if we're going to be honest. But I wonder if it's more about the system that DeBoer runs, right? And I really hope, and I've told Alabama fans this, it's unfair to Kalen DeBoer to expect the same thing that you got from Nick Saban and the way that they dominated recruiting. Alabama's going to continue to recruit itself, and it is a really positive thing. And I would have said this if it was Auburn. I would pump the brakes a little bit on it being as groundbreaking as Julio Jones was, because people forget, once Julio committed, there was a flood of guys that ended up going to Alabama because of that commitment. This is kind of on the other end of the spectrum. One started the party, the other one stopped the bleeding.
True.
Right.
Thanks, Jake.
And the last thing I just want to say real quick is I haven't been able to speak since DeBoer got hired, and the timing of his hire, in my opinion, the timing of the retirement is great because you know your recruiting is going to fall off. How do you counter that? You bring in a guy who's really great with X's and O's. And you understand that, hey, with a 12-team playoff, now those 10-2, those 9-3 seasons, you're a playoff team.
Yeah.
So the transition and the timing, in my opinion, was perfect. And that's
I don't think it could have been better, honestly, in the situation. And you return a quarterback after losing your quarterback at Washington, right? You're not having to bring in a young guy in your first year at Alabama who's going to have to go through some ups and downs. You got an experienced guy that knows the way it works in Jalen Milroe. That's big as well.
I'm so glad Alabama fans are starting to feel stuff again.
Yeah, I'm glad to see y'all feel stuff again.
It's a positive thing.
It is good. It is good. It's good for everybody.
All right, let's go to Pete the Greek. We're running out of time here. What you got for us, Pete?
Hey, guys, I'm at the doctor's. I'm loyal to you guys. You see that?
Hey, you're the man, Pete.
Everything
you're
okay,
the man.
Pete?
Hey, I'm going to say, everything's good. Everything's good. Normal checkup. 60 minutes of football. You guys are the 60 minutes of football.
Thank you.
And sports, just sports in general.
Thank you.
I want to make you
That's a compliment, right? That's a compliment, right?
That's right. Absolutely. You guys are been around, and you got staying power. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Gas me up, Pete.
Come on, Pete.
Hey, this is more for Cone. I want to congratulate him on his championship.
Thank you, Pete.
But I also want to say that Harbaugh is going to have success, and I got to make you guys laugh because his brother's going to give him every playbook possible in the NFL to be successful.
Yeah, he needs it.
Yeah, Jim's already stealing signs.
Yeah, Connor Stallions has been in LA for a week and a half.
Yeah, either Connor Stallions next head coach at Michigan or Jim's going to take it.
That would be the most gangster move.
Michigan
if Michigan hired Connor Stallions as the head coach, I'd root for me. I would start actively rooting.
The NCAA is trying to figure out a way to suspend Jim Harbaugh in the NFL.
They're calling Roger
Goodell. I'm going to go back 1 second to what Jake said. I'm going to say, guys, I'm still sour for FSU, so I'm going to say defense does win games.
It does.
Defense does win games. And at the end of the day, we were 13-0, and defense was winning it. So that's all I got, boys.
Pete, I'm with you, man. Hey, I'm going to be hopping in one of those spaces. Pete.
Hey, Jake, make sure you get in touch with A.D. Alford.
Yeah, we got to get Norvell on. We got to get Norvell on, too.
Yeah. I gave you his secretary's email, so.
That's right. Pete, I tell you what, man, you're the gift that keeps on.
Legend,
hey, good luck at the doctor.
Yeah.
Thank you, man.
Hey, cough twice.
Thank you, brothers.
I could say a joke right now.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to do it. All right. I really won't.
That's it today. Hunter, anybody else on the line? Y'all call in tomorrow.
Pongo
Dragon Friday.
Then we got Tim Brando coming on.
Yes.
Oh, God, my hip fell asleep. Or like my leg that's connected to my hip. Anyways, all right. Going to get to donos in a second. Back to the Booster Club. Here's what I'm going to say. All right, last night, hit my Bama, Georgia parlay for plus 149. Seton Hall. Shaheen, what's going on, dog?
They only win when you bet against them.
Like, what's going on? We were hot there for a while. Tonight, listen, let's get Oral Roberts, -4, going off at -112. Then Stephen F. Austin, F. period. And Grand Canyon over 151. I keep thinking Grand Canyon is like the University of Phoenix. I didn't realize that. And then I remember how good they are in football. They're like a pretty good football.
I know. I never have gotten the whole Grand Canyon thing.
What do you mean?
People who just drive out to see the Grand Canyon and they're just amazed by it.
Well, I think that's because you've never.
I just don't get it.
It's pretty great.
I saw it and I was amazed by it.
Like, what's amazing? Look up. You know how big.
Right?
You know
more than one.
You know how big that is.
Are you all right?
You know how big that is? No, it pisses me off. It pisses me off because people are so normalized with what. Just look up. That's never ending.
Why can't it both be amazing?
It's not.
Man, this sounds like a. This
We'll
sounds
go
like
see it when we go to
an.
Vegas.
Humans
This
are
sounds-
stupid.
What happened to you?
This sounds like an It's Mid segment ready to happen.
Well, yeah, the
Don't
Grand
you dare
Canyon's
call the
just
Grand
mid.
Canyon.
Are you
mid.
saying the Grand Canyon's overrated?
It's mid. It's for 7-year-olds to go who are bored.
No, that's called Chuck E.
hurt
Cheese.
I feel bad
No
for
one
you,
hurt-
bro.
Yeah, something
It's
happened.
like-
I don't know. I've known you your whole life. I'm
People
trying to
just
remember.
gas up the Grand Canyon so much. It's like, look up. That's space. You know what goes on up there? No one really does.
You must have had like a Hills Have
We should
Eyes.
take him whitewater rafting in the Grand Canyon.
Don't bring race into this.
Yeah. Why do you got to
Don't
say
bring race into
it's water?
Okay,
it's
we
blue,
should-
David.
We
Grow
should
up.
take him water rafting.
Whatever, Jay will.
Yeah, read your bets, racist.
First of all, I'm about reading bets,
There's
man.
a hockey
Auburn
stick.
plus 3.5 last night. We can't hit.
You know what you
I told
Let's
you
hit our
not to
free
do
throws.
it.
You know what you did. If you try
Can we
it-
count that 3 at the end of the game and lose by 1? Can we do that, please? Instead of waving it off, and the over didn't hit either. I'm over it. I'm going back to tennis. I'm going to take Djokovic today, all right? It probably won't get played until next week or something, but Djokovic, first ace, first break, and he wins the match. That's plus 180. And then how about Djokovic? 3 sets to none in the victory, plus 280.
Man, I'm excited
Djokovic,
for you.
AKA
You know what I don't get? You know what I don't get excited for? When I have to write a short story.
Yeah.
Djokovic,
It's on the-
AKA
I knew you'd have fun.
Yeah, I had to write Matt Walsh's poem on here. But no, I can't wait till March to find out if Joker wins that bet. All right.
All right, shut up.
I've done that twice this week.
Dude? Why am I even here? All right, give me Arizona minus 18.5. Who cares? Obviously not Jake. It's going off at minus 110. Give me San Fran plus 9.5. I mean, look, maybe it can smell better in the basketball court than it does on the streets. Smells awfully shitty out here.
Ace cone.
That's a poop.
Apologize for
That's a
them.
poop on the
Yeah.
side of the street, Jake.
David Blaine, street magic. Anyway, Oregon State plus 18.5.
That's Tiger Magic.
And the Bruins money line minus 135. All right, let's get to the chat.
All right, Christopher Jordan with a $3 donation. What is the best flavor of Flintstone vitamins?
Oh,
Orange.
The purple ones are the best.
No, the red one. No, the purple one.
The purple one's the best.
Purple one, yeah. Dang, that takes me back, man. Was that just candy? Was it candy?
Yeah, I think that was like the Welch's snack fruits. They just put it in the Flintstone and made them the shape of like.
You think so?
Stuff. Yeah.
The Flintstone vibe.
You remember the Flintstone movie with the real Flintstone movie with that's a good movie.
Yeah, John Goodman. Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it was. It's on Netflix.
That's name any movie.
Farting in the bathtub, laughing your ass off. Well, let's go to Justin Alferrer with $5 donuts. So Justin, thank you. Jake and Blaine, keep y'all heads up. Auburn will be fine. Also, if they play in the tournament, it's hard to beat a team twice.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm trying to tell everybody else to calm down.
Yeah,
like one game in basketball. Oh no, 16-3 and 5-1 in the SEC.
Yeah,
God, please pour it all over.
Remember Simeon Bowers dribbling the ball.
Yes. Every time I get upset at Auburn basketball, I think about Rob Chubb attempting to play basketball at Auburn.
Let's go to Matthew Gunnick with a $5 donation. Matt, appreciate it. He says, "What's the over/under on Michigan players Harbaugh is going to this year?"
That's a good question.
Not JJ.
There's got to be a bet out there.
JJ.
There's got to be a bet out there over/under on Michigan betting.
Do you think if they? Where do you think Blake Corum's going to go? If I'm Jim Harbaugh, I'm like, how many offensive linemen can I bring?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at. I don't know where Blake Corum's going to go, but can you imagine Blake Corum and Austin Eckler like in the same backfield? They're the same.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities.
And they're built the same.
Yeah.
Let's go to Matt Stivers with a $10 donation. Matt Stivers, Matt. I apologize. Fangio, a Harbaugh guy, parting ways with the Dolphins feels very timely.
Yeah.
How much is it going to take to keep Minter in Ann Arbor? I believe you donated that twice. We hit it once. We can hit it again.
Well, again, if I'm a Michigan fan, I am rooting for Fangio to the Chargers.
Sounds like Vic wants to be back near his family, though, or near where he's from, back in Philly. So I don't know. Sounds like the Eagles, but anything to keep Jesse Minter in Ann Arbor.
All right, let's go to Chase Mills with a $5 donation. He says, "Don't worry, Cone. Nerfy season is swiftly approaching."
My body's ready to be hurt again by the Braves.
Yeah?
My body's ready.
Just not to the...
All right, let's go to the last donation today. That is the Humping Badger.
There he is.
The $10 donation. David, now that Harbaugh's out, who is Michigan looking to take over, and why is it Connor Stallions? Also, while you're helping Harbaugh move, I'm currently dancing on your lawn. Do something.
No, you're not. You're in the basement, you pervert badger. Everybody go watch Lady Ballers, please.
Yes, go check it out. It's our movie debut.
All right, poll.
Will
Jim Harbaugh win a Super Bowl?
Good one. Yes, 62%.
I'm going to say yes, 61%.
Yes. 54%.
We're in the majority, though.
46.
There we go.
God, it's been a good back and forth.
Having a good week. Flaming Dragon Friday tomorrow?
Dragon Friday.
Go, baby.
Tim Brando tomorrow.
Timmer!
It's a great situation. Thanks, everybody. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let us know what you think in the comments. Grab some merch. Check out Provia. Check out Game Time, especially if you want to get some tickets. And like Jim Harbaugh's tenure at Michigan, we're going.
Uh-oh.
Oh, that was nasty. That was that. Come on.
We won
that
the
was
championship.
That was like a Mariano.
You and Auburn basketball.
Yeah,
the ball
gone.
matters.